You're standing in your kitchen making coffee. The house is empty, the street is quiet. Still, you straighten your shoulders. Your hand adjusts the mug, just slightly. I tilted the head. That curated look of thoughtfulness. Not real thought, the look of it. You're not just looking out the window. You're performing it. More deliberate and necessary. More intentional. As if someone were taking notes. But no one's here, or so you keep telling yourself. You move to the window and look out at nothing in particular, but your face arranges itself. The thought comes like a chill. When did I start living like this? You move through your morning. Now you can't unsee it. The way you choose your clothes, not for comfort, but for coherence. The way you prepare your breakfast, turn on music, adjust posture, each action faintly observed. By no one. The objects on the shelf tell a story. Who did you arrange them for? But what were you thinking before you started thinking about thinking? Your phone is silent. No messages. But the sense of being seen hasn't left. At your desk, the books are angled just so. It reflects a version of you that's become a spectator. Not in the crowd, but of your own experience. A voice narrates, "This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm feeling. This is what this moment means." Not thought commentary, not self-awareness surveillance. You've been living your life in italics, emphasizing every moment as if someone else were reading it. For an audience that never applauds, never leaves, never looks away. And now silence. The coffee grows cold. When did your most private gestures become choreography? There's a recognition you can't yet name. The feeling of being watched but not seen. Of performing a life that never ends. You pass a mirror. Catch yourself adjusting, not your clothes, but your expression. As if prepping for thought. The mirror doesn't lie, but it doesn't tell the truth either. Your hand moves through your hair, and even that feels practiced. A pause. Stillness. Nothing moves, but everything feels placed. The house is still empty. The street still quiet. But the silence is occupied. You haven't been alone in a very long time. This invisible witness has been shaping more than your movements. It has been editing your thoughts before you finish thinking them. When something painful happens, the first impulse isn't to feel it, it's to frame it. The original feeling, the raw first response, gets buried beneath layers of interpretation. What actually happened becomes less important than how it will be remembered, how it will be told. To find the angle that makes sense, the version that someone else might understand. Even grief gets a treatment, a rewrite, a better draft. The specific tiredness that comes from never fully arriving anywhere, never completely landing in your own experience. The invisible audience knows your routines, your preferences, your carefully curated thoughts. They know your performance of joy, but not the moment joy actually touches you. They know the story you tell about your life, but not the life itself. But they've never met the part of you that wakes up afraid, that thinks terrible thoughts, that wants impossible things. The invisible audience loves your highlights, but has no patience for your rough edges. Every experience gets processed through the lens of what it means, what it teaches, how it fits into the larger narrative of who you're becoming. The meaning becomes more important than the moment. They want your wisdom, but not your confusion, your strength, but not your weakness, your growth, but not your messiness. They want the version of you that makes sense, that has learned something, that can be learned from. When you react before you remember to edit it, these moments feel like returning to a country you didn't know you'd left. The fatigue of being the director, the actor, and the critic all at once. The invisible audience is patient but persistent. It doesn't demand perfection, just consciousness, just awareness, an audience that sees everything and feels nothing, an audience that knows your entire life and has never once been moved by it. Just the constant low-level performance of being someone worth watching. You walk through your days as both the author and the subject of your own story, constantly revising as you live. When something happens, you immediately begin deciding which version will be kept, which details matter, which emotions are worth preserving. What about the feelings that resist interpretation? What about the experiences that are just experiences, without lesson or growth attached? The invisible audience has no use for the inexplicable, the purposeless, the simply human. To be present without being witnessed, to be yourself without being anyone at all. The invisible audience doesn't just shape the present, it reconstructs the past. Your own history becomes a carefully edited collection, filed away for future reference. And somewhere in the space between being seen and being known, you realize you've been living your entire life in translation. The present moment becomes a rough draft, something to be improved later, something that will make more sense once it's been processed, contextualized, given meaning. But in the translation from experience to story, something essential is always lost. The most spontaneous parts of yourself have learned to ask permission first. Laughter gets checked before it escapes. Tears are auditioned before they're allowed to fall. Even anger must first be deemed appropriate, reasonable, well-timed. The invisible audience doesn't just watch, it judges. And somewhere along the way, its standards became your standards. This is how you learn to live at a distance from your own life, always a beat behind your own experience, always translating feeling into performance, always turning the messy reality of being human into something more palatable, more presentable, more worthy of being witnessed. But here's what the invisible audience never sees: the exhaustion. There's a particular loneliness in this arrangement. You are seen constantly, but known never. They know your performance of sadness, but not your actual sadness. And so you become homesick for your own existence. You learn to live like someone who must always be explainable. Memory itself gets curated. But what about the moments that don't fit the story? These get forgotten. Not because they didn't matter, but because they couldn't be made to matter in the right way. And so you begin to forget what it feels like to exist without intention, to move through the world without a narrator, to feel something without immediately knowing what it means. The invisible audience promises connection, but delivers only observation. It promises understanding, but offers only surveillance. It promises love, but provides only attention. There are moments when you catch a glimpse of what's been lost. A split second when you forget to perform, when you laugh before you remember to modulate it. But they pass quickly. And so you continue through your carefully curated days, performing being yourself for an audience that never laughs, never cries, never reaches back. And still, you keep trying to reach them. You stop trying to be understood, but not because you feel free, because you finally realize there was never anyone else in the room, but here's what you haven't seen yet. The invisible audience isn't them, it's you. Not the you that's living, but the you that's watching the you that's living. Somewhere along the way, you split yourself in two. The one who feels and the one who decides if the feeling is allowed. The one who acts and the one who reviews the performance. The one who lives and the one who edits. It promised safety through awareness, acceptance through control, connection through curation. And eventually, you forgot there was ever a time when you weren't being watched. This didn't happen because you wanted to be admired. It happened because once you needed to be safe. You became a performer because part of you decided the real you was too much, too messy, too dangerous to leave unsupervised. There was a time, maybe long ago, when being too visible meant being too vulnerable. In teaching you to manage how you appear, it taught you to live at a distance from how you are. When saying the wrong thing or crying at the wrong moment left you open to shame, that you were being hidden, even from yourself. And that person, the one before the split, the one without explanation or apology, is still there, still waiting, still hoping the performance will end and the meeting can begin. So you build a system, a way to pause before reacting, to filter, to manage the exposure of being human. It doesn't stop watching, not to keep you safe, but to keep you from vanishing. A quiet audit of your own being. You trained yourself to live from the outside in, always reviewing, always rehearsing, always protecting something soft you were too afraid to show. The invisible audience began as protection, a quiet watcher guarding against mistakes. But guardians that never rest become prisons. What began as caution became habit. What began as strategy became self. This audience knows you better than anyone because it is you. It sees the impulse before you feel it, the fear before you name it. It predicts, prepares, protects, but it has never learned how to let you exist. Here's the part that stings. You didn't become a performer because the world demanded it, so you build a system of internal checks. The invisible audience isn't social media. It isn't other people. It's the version of you that learned to fear your own immediacy, the part that decided witnessing was safer than living. And in protecting you from being fully seen, it also blocked you from being fully known. The very thing you built to keep you safe has been keeping you from yourself. You thought you were being careful, you were actually being afraid. You thought you were being conscious, you were actually being controlled. You thought you were being seen. The invisible audience knows every line you've rehearsed, but has never met the person speaking them. But the invisible audience doesn't rest. It doesn't go home. It doesn't stop watching, not to keep you safe, but to keep you from vanishing. But now you know it's there. And that changes something, even if it changes nothing. You return to the mirror, to the morning light, to the simple act of making coffee. But this time, you see both parts of yourself. The one who reaches for the cup, and the one who watches the reaching. The one who lives, and the one who takes notes. And in that space, however small, lives the possibility of something else. There's no moment of liberation, no sudden freedom from the gaze. The invisible audience remains, patient as always, ready to resume its documentation. You don't need to smash the mirror or burn the script. You just need to remember you hired them. But roles, once seen, can be stepped out of, even for a moment. But for a moment, you glimpse the machinery. The quiet choreography between the watched and the watcher. You notice the slight pause before you move. The tiny interval where the observer checks the gesture before it happens. And in that noticing, something shifts. Not the pattern, but your place inside it. The forgetting was, forgetting that you created it. Forgetting that what was built can also be paused. The performance continues, but now there's a witness to the witness. And for once, the turn isn't for anyone, not even for yourself. It's just where your body wants to go. You understand now, the audience was never the problem. The mirror shows you someone who forgot the roles were roles. You don't need to fire the invisible audience. The performance doesn't end, but sometimes it can pause. You turn away from the mirror, the audience makes a note, files it, prepares to continue, but something has been seen that can't be unseen. The space between the watcher and the watched, brief as breath, endless as silence.